Ever feel like you're playing a game at work and nobody told you the rules?
Ooh, I know that feeling.
Right. Well, today's deep dive is all about cracking the code of workplace dynamics, specifically managing up and across.
Mm-hmm.
We're diving deep into some insightful Harvard Business Review articles
Always a good source.
to help you build stronger relationships with your boss and colleagues.
Yeah, and what I find fascinating about these HBR articles is, they go beyond that surface level advice.
Right. It's not just be a good listener.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking psychology here. The psychology behind effective communication, the importance of understanding people's motivations, and the often overlooked power of strategic empathy.
I love that strategic empathy. Okay, so let's unpack this. We hear so much about managing down, delegating, giving feedback, all that good stuff. But these articles really have me convinced that managing up
Oh, absolutely.
can be even more crucial.
It's not even just managing up, it's reframing that whole dynamic. It's a partnership,
Okay, I like that.
a true partnership. And a key takeaway here, I think, is understanding what your boss truly values.
Beyond just the job description.
Exactly. What are their expectations? And that goes beyond the job description.
Right, it's about like reading between the lines, right?
Exactly.
So for example, one article suggested that many bosses, believe it or not, they actually crave more frequent updates than they let on.
Interesting.
And not because they want to micromanage every little detail, but it helps them manage their own anxieties, their own responsibilities.
Absolutely. And a lot of managers, they may fear missing deadlines set by their superiors, right?
Yes.
So when you proactively provide these updates, especially with potential roadblocks,
Roadblocks, yeah.
you're not just keeping them in the loop, you're giving them valuable information that they can use to manage up as well.
That's a great point. It's like that saying, a stitch in time saves nine. By anticipating those needs, communicating proactively, you're actually helping your boss look good and stay ahead of the game.
Precisely. And this also ties into another crucial aspect the articles highlight, and that's understanding your boss as an individual.
Yes.
What are their own anxieties?
Everyone has them.
What communication style do they best respond to? What makes them tick?
Right, because it's like that old saying, before you diagnose yourself with depression, make sure you're not surrounded by jerks.
Uh-huh. Right?
Maybe your boss isn't incompetent. Maybe they're just,
Wired differently.
wired differently.
Exactly. And once you understand those individual quirks, those motivations, you can tailor your approach to build a much more productive and honestly less stressful working relationship.
Less stressful, for
Yeah.
sure. So we've covered the importance of understanding your boss's needs, but what happens when those needs start to feel overwhelming? Like, for example, the micromanager.
Yes.
The articles offer some really good tactics for dealing with micromanagers.
Right. And I think one of the most effective strategies is try to understand that why. Why are they micromanaging? What are they truly worried about?
What's the root cause?
Is it a fear of things falling through the cracks? A past experience where they were let down? Once you identify that root cause, you can start addressing it directly.
I love that. Address the anxiety, not the symptom.
Exactly.
One article had this fantastic example. This employee had a boss that was completely obsessed with time management, like obsessed. So this employee starts sending detailed time reports without even being asked, arriving early for every meeting, practically synchronized their watch to their boss's schedule.
Wow.
And guess what?
What?
It worked.
That's amazing. I love that.
That is a perfect example of like strategic managing up in action.
It is.
By understanding the anxieties and proactively addressing them, they were able to build that trust and actually create a more autonomous working relationship.
All about trust.
It is all about trust. Okay, so we've tackled understanding our bosses.
Yeah.
But what about those other important, sometimes even trickier relationships with colleagues?
Oh, yeah. Those are tough.
Yeah, because they're not your boss. These articles really emphasize, again, the power of emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. It's key. And it's not just about being nice.
Right.
It's not just about being a good listener, although, that's part of it.
It's a good start.
It's really about understanding the motivations and perspectives of your colleagues, even those
The difficult ones.
you may not always agree with.
Right. So being self-aware, good at reading others, these are all key components of emotional intelligence.
Yes. One article described empathy as not just being nice, but essential for making smart decisions, especially in today's world,
Oh, absolutely, especially today,
especially in these collaborative work environments.
where teamwork is vital.
Teamwork is absolutely vital. And they actually they gave this great example of a manager who completely turned around a struggling team just by listening, just by listening to each member's frustrations one-on-one.
Wow, sometimes just feeling heard can make all the difference.
Huge. Now, let's talk about those colleagues we maybe don't like so much.
Ooh, yes. The frenemies.
Because we all have to deal with office
To
politics.
some extent, yeah.
So how do we navigate that without becoming,
A master manipulator.
exactly.
Like nobody wants to be that person.
Yeah.
So what do the articles say?
They stress that you don't have to become a master manipulator. You can focus on mutual advantage.
Mutual advantage.
Find those win-win scenarios where helping your colleagues also helps you.
Okay, so practical tip time. One article gave a fantastic 4-step process for building a stronger network.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
I thought it was really, really useful.
It's a great framework. So it starts with analyzing, right? Analyzing the benefits that each connection brings you.
Okay.
Are they an information source? Do they energize you? Or are they more of an energy drain?
So it's about being honest with yourself about the value each person brings.
Yeah, exactly. And that leads to step 2, which is delayering,
Delayering, I like that.
which can be tough. It involves asking yourself some tough questions like, does this relationship consistently leave me feeling drained or negative? Or are there benefits to me kind of redundant with other people in my network?
So you're not burning bridges, you're just prioritizing.
Exactly. You're just prioritizing those relationships that are mutually beneficial and energizing.
So you've analyzed, you've delayered, what's next?
Then comes diversifying.
Okay, diversification.
This stage is all about identifying the gaps in your network. Are you missing connections in certain departments? Are there people with certain expertise that could be valuable to you that you're missing?
You're looking for those missing pieces of the puzzle that could really help you out.
Exactly. And then finally, you capitalize on those relationships.
Put them to good use.
You leverage those connections to get things done, to achieve your goals, to make things happen.
It's so simple when you break it down like that. It's brilliant. And speaking of making things happen, one of the articles delved into, and I love this, the science of persuasion, which I found fascinating. Did you know, for example, and this just blew my mind, that even just mentioning an upcoming scarcity, like limited time information,
Oh, wow.
can actually make people more receptive to your ideas?
It's that fear of missing out, right?
It is. It's totally that, like, psychological
The urgency.
urgency, scarcity
Uh-huh.
makes them act.
It's fascinating how that works.
It really is. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, but these HBR articles didn't just focus on these individual relationships. They also offered some really intriguing insights into generational differences in the workplace.
Which, we see that all the time now, right?
Oh, that's
Especially when it comes to working with, Gen Xers,
millennials.
millennials, or Gen Y, as some people call them.
Right, exactly. And this is where I think, understanding those different generational perspectives becomes absolutely crucial.
Oh, for sure.
Because what motivates a baby boomer
Totally different.
might not resonate with a millennial,
Completely different.
and vice versa. So bridging that gap can be tricky. What were some of the key generational differences that they highlighted that stood out to you?
Well, one of the takeaways is that boomers, they're the ones who are in those senior leadership roles in a lot of organizations now. They tend to be very, very competitive.
It's their world, right?
It is. They often view situations as win-lose.
Okay.
So to persuade a boomer, you need to emphasize how your idea will give the company that competitive edge.
Okay. So you've got to speak their language.
You have to.
Make it about tangible results,
Yes,
about achieving those ambitious goals.
absolutely. They want to see those numbers.
Yeah.
Now, Gen Xers, they're a bit different.
They are.
They're skeptical.
Yeah.
They really are. This is a generation that came of age during times of economic uncertainty
Right. They've seen some things.
and rapid technological change.
Right. So they're not going to just take your word for it.
No, you can't just play it straight with them.
You've got to show your work.
You've got to demonstrate that you've weighed all the options. You've thought about the what-ifs. You've anticipated the potential challenges, and you have a plan to address them.
Right. So it's about empowering them.
Yes, and you might even think about offering them a menu of solutions.
Oh, I like that.
Let them choose the one they think is best.
So you've done your homework, you're prepared,
You're prepared.
and you're giving them a choice.
And that makes them feel like they're part of the process, which they really respond to.
Which makes a lot of sense given their independent nature.
Exactly. Now, Gen Y, how do you manage the millennials?
This is the big question, right?
The big one. Well, millennials, as the articles pointed out, they thrive on challenges.
Okay.
And they really, really want opportunities for growth.
So it's not just about the paycheck for them.
No, no, not at all. This is a generation that's grown up with constant access to information, constant access to technology. They're used to things moving quickly.
Right. So they expect kind of that same level of like stimulation and engagement.
At work, exactly.
At work. Yeah.
So to effectively manage millennials, you need to be giving them those stretch assignments, right?
The ones that are a little bit outside their comfort
A
zone.
little outside the comfort zone.
Okay.
Allow them to learn and grow and make an impact.
So it's not just about like assigning tasks. It's about assigning tasks that have meaning.
Yes. And letting them know how their work contributes to the bigger picture.
The why.
The why, exactly.
The overall mission.
Yes, that's what they want to know.
Yeah.
And also, you can't forget, they expect regular coaching and feedback.
Oh, yeah, that constant feedback loop.
Constant. They need it. They crave it.
We crave it, yeah.
They want to know how they're doing. Where can they improve? How can they get better? How can they level up their skills?
So be clear about expectations, but give them the autonomy to kind of figure it out.
Yes. And that makes sense. Again, right? They've grown up with technology at their fingertips.
It's how they operate.
They're used to that. But no matter which generation you're dealing with, I think the articles really stress this, the ability to build those strong relationships, understand motivations, and communicate effectively, that's essential.
It all comes back to those core principles, right? No matter what generation, we're all human.
Exactly.
We're all driven by those similar desires for connection.
We want to connect.
We want purpose. We want achievement.
We want to feel valued.
We want to feel valued, exactly. And those differences, when approached with empathy and understanding, they actually can become a source of strength, not division.
Absolutely. Think about it like building a diverse portfolio. You wouldn't want all your investments to be the same, right?
Right.
You want to spread that risk.
Exactly. And a well-rounded team with people from diverse backgrounds, different generations, it just brings that wider range of perspectives
And experiences.
and experiences to the table.
And who knows, maybe we can all learn something from each other along the way.
Now there's a thought to ponder. And speaking of pondering, it's funny how these generational differences, they play out in such subtle ways, right?
They really do. And it's interesting. These dynamics, they aren't just limited to the workplace.
No, absolutely not.
You see them in families, in social groups, even in how different generations interact with, like, media and stuff.
It's so true. Okay, but before we go too far down that rabbit hole, any other, pearls of wisdom from those HBR articles? We've covered a lot of ground, but I have a feeling there are more nuggets of brilliance in there.
Well, one article had this really fascinating point about remote work.
Okay.
That really resonated with me, especially, given how common remote and hybrid work environments have become these days.
Oh, absolutely. We can't talk about the modern workplace without talking about remote work. So what do the HBR gurus have to say about managing up and across in this virtual world?
Well, they highlight something that seems so obvious, but I think it often gets overlooked.
What's that?
Those little background noises that are just ever present in remote work,
Oh, yeah.
the dog barking, the siren going off in the background.
To keyboard clicking.
Keyboard clicking, all those things. They can actually, even though they seem insignificant, those sounds can create a subtle but very real barrier.
Interesting.
To connection and engagement.
It makes it harder to focus.
Especially for those remote colleagues.
Yeah, because you lose those nonverbal cues, don't you?
Exactly.
When you're not face-to-face.
You're exactly right. We rely on those subtle signs of engagement, those nonverbals. And when those are missing, it's harder to feel fully present.
Right.
Fully engaged. And especially when you've got these auditory distractions constantly interrupting the flow of conversation.
Yeah, it's hard enough already.
You can make it hard for remote colleagues to feel like they're really part of the team.
Right, like they're actually in the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the article really stressed being extra mindful when you're working with those remote colleagues.
Okay, so what does that look like practically? It's over-communicating, being really clear about expectations, being very respectful of time zones.
Yes.
And actively fostering that sense of connection, even from afar.
And I think that's where technology can really help, right? Like video conferencing, when you use it effectively, can really bridge that gap.
Oh, 100%. Because, seeing someone's face, their reactions, all those nonverbal cues that we were just talking about.
And it makes all the difference.
It makes all the difference in the world. Creates that presence, that connection.
It's almost like having, that virtual water cooler
Exactly.
like a way to replicate those informal interactions that you would normally have in a physical office.
Precisely. Because those informal chats, the shared laughter, the quick check-ins, that's what makes work, well, less worky?
More enjoyable, yeah. I
Well
totally
done.
agree. So, as we start to wrap up this deep dive into this whole art and science of managing up and across,
Yeah.
I'm kind of left with this lingering question.
Oh, yeah. What's that? If these principles, we're talking about, like understanding motivations, building trust, communicating effectively, if they work so well at work, why not apply them to our personal lives too?
Oh, wow. Now that is a thought-provoking question.
Right, because think about it. Are there like energy drainers in your personal life or maybe some gaps in your support system that you could fill with like new connections?
Interesting.
Could you maybe benefit from understanding the generational differences within your own family a little bit better?
Mm.
It's like these HBR articles have given us this amazing toolkit,
Digital kid, yeah,
and we can use these tools
in our lives.
in every aspect of our lives, not just at work.
What a wonderful point to end on.
Think about it this way, right? Think of all the relationships in your life
Okay.
with family, with friends,
Right.
even that barista you see every morning.
I like that.
Each one of those relationships, just like the ones at work, has its own dynamics, right?
It's true, yeah.
Its own opportunities for, growth and connection.
Oh, absolutely.
So as you're going through your day, right,
Right.
as you're navigating these relationships, just ask yourself, what can I learn from this interaction?
That's a good question.
How can I approach this conversation maybe with a little bit more empathy,
Yeah.
a little bit more understanding?
It's amazing how these principles, they really can apply across the board
They really can.
to so many different areas of life.
It's true. It's about shifting our mindset from just kind of like going through the motions
Yeah.
to actually actively building these like stronger, more meaningful relationships.
Cyber connections, yeah.
Whether it's at work,
At home,
at home, in our communities, wherever.
everywhere.
Everywhere. Exactly. It's like those HBR articles, they've given us like this decoder ring
I love that analogy.
to kind of unlock like deeper connections
Yes,
in all areas of our lives.
that's what it's all about.
And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap things up.
I agree.
But I really hope this conversation continues long after you hit that stop button.
Me too. Because at the end of the day, it's those connections.
It's the human stuff.
The human stuff, that's what matters. It's what enriches our lives.
Couldn't agree more. So, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of managing up and across. Until next time.